it's Shay back again with another little episode from Making Grace Valor. So, Grace's story involves a convoy of pioneer spaceships heading off to a new planet to start a new life. So, I needed a bunch of spacecraft of varying size and shape and usage. Typically, that always starts with the sketch. Now, I could go into some AI image generator and say, give me a bunch of spaceships. And it would spit out stuff that probably is going to look like a lot of stuff we've already seen because the models have been trained on what's out there. But I wanted to make sure that I had some control over that, and I got maybe some things we hadn't seen before, and some of them are references to classic sci-fi stuff. So I did a page full of sketches. And they're pretty rough, but again, shape language is what it's all about here. These more classic rocket ship designs with a little embellishment here and there. Then some more bizarre shapes just to play around with, but not a lot of detail in these at all, just going for simple shapes. So I brought this in to modify in Arcana and used it as a reference, as a source image, and then ran some different models on it to modify it, and started to get a variation, different ships, and some things like this is weird. I like it. That's not what I planned. That's a good one there. And then just different prompts, like maybe make it a marker drawing or make it a pencil drawing. It will give you some different shading and change things and tweak them a little bit. So I did a couple variations where I got a few different ideas. And then I told it to make it into a photographic 3D model. And it started generating these different 3D ones. And then some more prompting and some different model changes. It started to spit out these single images taken from one of the sketches. And I started to get solid stuff like that, which is really pretty nice. So it spit out different variations. Then it went back to putting a bunch of them on a page. All good stuff. And you can see in some it combined those different spaceships into new spaceships. You can see elements of one show up in another. And it would give me different angles. Again, just simple grayscale. No paint or anything like that. This is a good one here. I pulled that. That's a good version combined with that. And I believe I prompted combine different spaceships into new spaceships for different variations. So I get a lot of good variations really quickly. Again, from that really simple sketch of mine. There's not a lot to that sketch. And you can see that all of these came from that. So you can see what your source image is here and what you ended up with. So make a photoreal page of different spacecraft in a white void and industrial light and magic level detailing, right? So that's a standard. So, let's reference them. There's a level of quality there that we definitely want to reference. But most of these, I just had the simple silhouettes, and some of these I would have never come up with. I could have sketched for, hours and hours and would have never done that. But that could be pretty cool. And then I had some go in and just add some color just to see what that did to the drawing. So these are all right. I can pull those and make them into something. But I get some detailing out here that I didn't otherwise have. That's good. So when I was done, I like this shark one. That's kind of cool. These are the farthest off of the original sketch. But this guy here, he's pretty neat. Big engine off to the side. But what happens is when I get enough that I feel like I got something I wanted to work with, I went into some of these 3D ones and pulled out individual images that I wanted to use, just individual ships. And pulled them out in Photoshop and isolated them and created a new Photoshop just image of just that single image. And then I started bringing them into Nano Banana, Nano Banana Pro actually. And so this is one of my original grayscale images, and then I give it a paint scheme. Uh, and this one it flipped the orientation, but that's fine. So from there to there, you can see it gave us transparency in the cockpit. Decided how big it was. Decided it was like a single passenger uh, thing. And then there's another version of it. This I specified some mid-century influence, and so we get this color palette of this kind of blue and orange. This one, that's a weird design, but it gave me that, which looks like some kind of big hauler thing. A little detailing here. There's another version of that same ship, right? And just that's happenstance. That's just letting the AI kind of be influenced by what I tell it, but also giving it room to play. This one turns into this. Again, it varies a little bit, but I quite like that. That's pretty good. And then there's another version of that. This one comes from another sketch, but I get 3 different variations, mostly in color. Again, this is kind of add some retro sci-fi into the prompt, and you get this cockpit, which is really, I like that quite a bit. The cockpit stays the same, so it just changes color scheme, and that's all done in the prompting. This one, I wanted to kind of be a hot rod, and so I prompted add Roth influence, and it got it, but it also threw in Rat Fink on everything. So that will come off in the final, but the paint scheme, everything else will be the same, but the Rat Fink character will come off, obviously. But the same thing, same prompt. And I like what it does. It gives me some pinstriping on these big ships, which I think is a fun idea. This is a big cruiser. Another cruiser. This one is a combination of a couple different ships. And you can see their influence with some of the others. This one's a sleek little craft. I liked it. But then I had it prompted with 70s van influence, 70s van paint scheme influence on it. So it gave me that one and that one. I like both of those. This one was that one with the big engine, and I prompted for some World War II aesthetic on these. So those turned out. And they could use some tweaking. They could use some cleaning up and simplifying. Like some of these panels, that's a little too patchwork. But that can all be fixed. And then this guy. This one again goes back to that kind of retro sci-fi. And again, asking for level of quality detail with the IL model shop. It gives me a little plaque. And I think I must have prompted for some rockabilly influence too. So it added that little plaque in there. Again, this is that kind of hot rod, Big Daddy Roth influence. You can tell from the Star Rat. So that comes off, but the flames. It does a really good job of picking up that sparkle flake paint. Another one, again, we'll remove these characters, but the pinstriping on it is nice. And the cockpit's really well done. And then this one, I prompted for it to be influenced by Bill Campbell's Weirdos models from the 60s. And it got that and also kind of brought in that logo. That can come off. But I like that. Again, to get to that from sketching and drawing, I don't know if I would have gotten there. And then big tankers, and then this ship, which I like the shape and form of it, but don't like the color on that. But I save it for later. In the meantime, these are all the ships for the little Armada that Grace's family is part of. So, again, those were generated in, I don't know, an hour and a half, maybe 2. Again, with the processing time to generate, I never have a good, clear idea, but I'm always generating and waiting, and then moving into motion and doing something in motion or something else. So there's within Arcana, you can do different things while you're waiting on other things. But those are all, again, they all start from original sketches. So there is control on my part as to what I'm getting. And it's just, when you're working this way, you have to be a good editor because you generate so much stuff. You have to edit quickly, and you got to know whether it works. You got seconds to know whether it's going to work or not. So back to this ship. I liked it, but I don't like the color on that. So I had to go back and just do white and gray. And then I realized I need ships for an enemy fleet that serves as the antagonist in Grace's story. And I needed fighter jets for them. And I like this an awful lot. And I like that color scheme. But it didn't look mean enough. So I prompted to make it more intimidating, more angular, make it villainous were part of the prompts. And so this is the same shape, but it added all that other stuff. And it made it black and red. And then it gave me another version where it's white and gray. Original paint scheme, but I like that a lot. That's less obvious choice. So I like that as the ship for the enemy fighters. And then I had it create different views. So I get front view, top view, side views, angular views. This is all from one image in Nano Banana. So I had it create a model sheet basically. And so I got just about every view I need. Send that right off to your model department, to your 3D modelers, and there you go, you're good. I also had it generate angles again. This time it really switched up the back end quite a bit. Some of the other stuff it kept pretty close. But that one, the back end of it's totally trash. So that's what happens when you get multiple generations is you get multiple variations until you start referencing existing images. Then I decided, well, okay, that's the ship. That's the aesthetic the whole enemy fleet should have. So I took that and made it a longer, bigger fighter. And I had made it into like a cruiser. Again, taking that original model and combining it with another more like a hauler model for the other Armada. Just another ship that's bigger and bulkier, so I combined the two. Did the same here. This did a good job of bringing the wings in. Again, it's not functional, but it's a spaceship, so it doesn't really matter. It looks cool. But again, it's got a lot of the same hallmarks of the design. Another variation of it for like the big command ship. So again, pretty quickly, I'm starting to build out this enemy fleet, and I can run variations, and I've got lots more variations on these that I'll spare you. But, you know, I generated like the Armada and the fleet in probably 3 or 4 times this many ships to choose from in, you know, a couple hours. Probably not even a couple hours, really. Maybe an hour and a half, something like that. But whatever it was, quicker than the traditional way. Again, not to disparage the traditional jobs, but if I'm a concept artist whose specialty is designing ships, I can design some really nice stuff and bring it in to this workflow and then iterate on top of that. Everybody knows that a lot of art and design is iteration. It's just, this speeds it up. If you've got your shape language down and your basic forms down and they work, you know, use this tool to push it, and you'll get things you wouldn't have thought of. But again, me, just a single one-person team on this whole project, doing all the art and everything, this makes it possible.